Okay, so I've now got the absolute pleasure to introduce Pete Rushmer, founder of Flagship Partners. Pete is an award-winning entrepreneur and TEDx speaker. He helps businesses build high-performance cultures through his performance trifecta. Have I pronounced that properly? Direction, skills, and energy. Today, Pete will share the hero theory, a powerful approach to empowering individuals in transport to unlock their potential and thrive. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Pete. I'm afraid I've messed up your notes, but you'll cope.
I'll work it out.
Yeah, thank you very much to Pete.
Well, some honour to be introduced by Beverly. Good afternoon, everybody. Hope you're all well, enjoying a lovely morning of fantastic speakers. It's an absolute honour to be here. As Beverly said, my name's Pete Rushmer. I'm the founder of Flagship Partners. We've been running about 7 years. We aim to deliver excellence when it comes to consultancy and training in the fleet sector. We don't just focus on operator licensing, we also look at health and safety, HR, because we believe that compliance is rooted in a holistic approach. And interestingly, over the 7 years of me running Flagship, founding Flagship and building the business and the team, I've realised that some of the challenges the industry faces, as well as my clients, is around culture, influence, behaviour, and how we enable strategic leadership. Which is why I wanted today, when Beverly and Alison asked me to come and speak to you, I wanted to give you something to take away that you could use, that you could implement and actually make a difference in your organisations, which is where I thought about and created the hero framework for you, which I'm going to be sharing today. So I have a question. Who's ever had a bad day? Yeah? Does it look like this? Or this? We've all had those phone calls, haven't we, that something's gone catastrophically wrong. But I'm asking, have you ever had a really, really, really bad day? Now, many of you in this room aren't surprised to see that photo, but if I was to stand in front of a room of people who are not from the industry, they'd be absolutely stunned that something so big would try to fit through something quite so small. Particularly when we used to overestimate in the size of things. I knew Beverly would laugh. So, that's a real challenge, isn't it, when we think about that? And obviously our heart falls when we get that phone call to say that's what's happening. Our heart's going to sink. We know what's coming. The inevitable correspondence with the traffic commissioner. The inevitable invitation for tea and biscuits with Mr. Turfitt and one of his colleagues. And we need to better make sure that we have our ducks in a row. But the thing that's really probably quite tedious for Richard and his colleagues, I would say, is that we sit in front of them and say, we've got policies, we've got training, we've done toolbox talks, but yet this still happens. And Richard and his colleagues are going to go, well, what are you doing to influence the culture and behaviour of your drivers? So, I've put number 5 up there. It's quite a significant number in our sector and in our industry, and it's one that drives me greatly in the work that I do. Does anyone know what that may be? There is a clue, a big red and white clue in the room. Yeah, it's literally right over there. Tanya, isn't it? Tanya and her colleague, Break, fantastic work they do over there. Hi, Tanya. But every day, 5 people a day on the UK roads die, and it's been that way for over 10 years. 82 seriously injured. In fact, every 17 minutes, someone's killed or seriously injured on our roads. If we were to chunk that up, that's 1,700 to 2,000 annually. 1,700 deaths and 28,000, get my words correct, annually seriously injured. It's significant, isn't it? We've got to ask ourselves why. And then the bridge strikes still happen too. 10 years, no improvement despite policies, training. And I'm not saying we don't do those things. I think we fundamentally have to. That's part of what my organisation does. But we need to think a little bit about why. And today I want you to think, why is that still happening? Okay? As well as how. How do we change that? So today's talk is a little bit different. We tend to fixate on knowledge in our industry, about training, knowledge, statistics, more stuff, more data, more analysis. But today I wanted to talk about behavioural change. So I'm going to ask you to have a think about your favourite hero or your favourite villain. Are you all thinking of somebody? I normally say Batman, but actually with Rick and Rob earlier, I'm going to mention my dad who did 30 years service as a policeman, and I saw the impact that had on him as a man and the challenges that it faced. So big shout out to those guys doing their good work. But my favourite, are you all thinking of a hero or a villain? And one of the things I want you to think about is think about the arch enemy of that hero or villain and what the difference is between the two. My favourite villain's the Joker. I think he's brilliant. Turns out he was a fun, kind boy, but it turned out he was abused by his foster parents, which made him turn to the villain that he was. And what's the real difference between him and Batman? I want us to understand that we all have the capacity for both being a hero and a villain. The only real difference is the circumstance. So, I skipped too quickly then, I apologise. So, I love biscuits. It's a bit of a food theme with what Beverly was talking about before, but I love biscuits, as you can probably tell. I'll go in the cupboard, I'll pull a packet of biscuits out, and I'll open them up and I'll eat them. I've got a couple of colleagues in the audience who will confirm my love of biscuits. And what I'll do is I'll eat them and carry on eating them until there's maybe only 3 left in the packet, and I look at it and I go, well, it's hardly worth me even putting it back in the cupboard. Does anyone else know that feeling? Yeah? Now, my mindset at that point when I'm doing that, the doctors told me that I shouldn't be eating fatty or sugary food. My mindset isn't on being a hero then. I've got the capacity to be a villain at that point, haven't I? And one of the things is it's that same trigger all the time. Just one biscuit won't hurt. Just one piece of chocolate won't hurt. Just one wine or one beer won't hurt. I'll just get out and check if my truck's going to fit. It won't hurt. Or the thing we turn to every time we're all bored and disinterested, our phones. It's just one text. It won't hurt. Bang. So I wanted to make sure you're all still awake. So there's no gradual when driving, which is why I created the hero framework for you to take away today. It's a simple and straightforward model, and it means a lot to me. I hope that you get it printed on t-shirts, on mugs, on key rings. You put it across your businesses, in your driver's restrooms. I've even printed it on a pair of sunglasses, which most of you will have in your bags to take away. It'd be amazing if you dug them out and put them on for a photo opportunity at the end. The principle of the hero framework is founded in the Stoics. Any of you that know me well know that I read a lot of Stoic philosophy. I absolutely love. When we roll the clock back 2,000 to 2,500 years ago, Epictetus, Marcus Aurelius, they knew some stuff about people and the condition of people and the way they think and the way they behave. And it's interesting that not much has changed. We're still working on that human software 1.0 that we were 2,500 years ago. This methodology is also utilised today. We talked earlier, Lucy shared her fantastic insights around mental health at work. If you were to go on the NHS website and look at the treatments that the NHS provide people who have been diagnosed with mental health illnesses, they tend to get treated with either medication or talking therapies, one of which is cognitive behavioural therapy, which is founded on this very same principle. In fact, it's found to be better than medication in many instances. What this foundation believes is that as young people, we grow up, we are influenced by our parents, by our peers, by our school, by our education and the culture we grow up in, which create a set of values. And we all have a different set of values depending on the culture that we've grown up in. All of your drivers, all of your employees, everybody will have their own set of principles that they live by. But many organisations, particularly bigger, more corporate organisations have a set of vision and values. And I'm a big advocate for those. And I suggest, in the absence of any others, I suggest hero not being a bad option. I want us to be human. I want us to be efficient, resilient, and observant. 4 very good fundamentals. And what happens is our values principles help us decide how we respond in the moment to the things that happen to us. And then that dictates the outcome. I've used this model countless times with clients, which I'll talk about specifically later. But I know what you're thinking. This is Dave. We all know Dave, don't we? I've been Dave, and I've also stood in front of Dave and delivered driver CPC training as well. 20 of Dave's looking back at me as a young lad several years ago, knees knocking, not sure what I'm going to say or do to really make an impact. But all those years ago, the very first CPC course I wrote was about this same subject, about how we can personally develop drivers to behave and think differently. It's something that I'm most passionate about. It's not easy. It's not easy to change behavior, as I said. Those of you that resonated the story about my biscuits, or whether it's wine or beer or chocolate or whatever it may be, it's hard for us to change behavior, particularly when we know that something factually and logically is a certain way. Because we all know that that's the case. We write our policies, we write our procedures, I write risk assessments, and they say a certain thing, but in the moment, the human part of us behaviourally sometimes does something different. And that's why it's important. And what I want to say is, if we always do what we've always done, we'll always get what we've always got. So, I wanted to delve into a little bit more detail about what I believe the hero framework is. So, the first is the principles, the moral compass, the values that we want to instill in our organisations that I suggest that you could take away. You could change these for others, but human, people at the core. Rick and Rob talked about that, didn't they? About being human, about treating everybody with respect, about loving our drivers, about making sure we treat people well. One of the things that's really easy, whether we're driving cars or trucks or buses, whatever it may be, it's easy to think we're the only human on the road when we're surrounded in a metal cage, and that those other people are there just to frustrate us and make us fed up. But we're all humans. We've all got families. We've all got friends. We've all got loved ones that we need to go home to, and we need to share the road in an effective way. So, the second value is around being effective, and that's about putting knowledge into action. It's all well and good getting training. Those of you that enjoy the £25 CPC course, I hope there's not many of those. You've all given up your time to come here, so I hope you value CPD a lot more than that. But it's about being effective and making sure that our drivers know that we train them and we implement handbooks, we implement policies, we implement training, and we really want them to make and turn that knowledge into action. It's not about sitting there and falling asleep in class. It's about making sure we put that knowledge into action, and it's about our managers and leaders walking the talk when it comes to that stuff too. We want them to be resilient, handling challenges with the right mindset. I talked about the hero mindset. We want them to have the right mindset around, this isn't my road, this isn't my domain, it's our domain, and we need to use it together safely. And finally, observant. Wouldn't it be great if we noticed the risks before they became a problem? That diversion, that's a risk. If we were to do a dynamic risk assessment at that moment that there's a diversion, the risk of consequence is heightened because we don't know where we're going anymore. It's those options in the moment where we can stop and think, be observant, check in, are we doing the right thing? And if we start to try and influence these values amongst our people, they will become embedded. The more we shout about it, the more they'll become embedded. Okay? And it's proven. We all instilled values from our parents. My dad wasn't easy to grow up with as a policeman. Crime doesn't pay. Be a man of service. All of those values, right? But they do. They work. They start to make us think in certain ways. We need to ensure that we have clear leadership and instruction of how we want our team and people to behave. And this doesn't just apply to drivers, it's throughout our organisations. This is how we start to affect and influence culture. So, the next part of the HERO framework is around the event, the response, and the outcome. See, the thing is when we are out on the roads or when we're in everyday life, there's lots of events that we have no control over. And this is where people get stuck on excuses, okay? There was traffic. Someone else drove poorly and cut me up. I was in a rush. I spotted somebody else using their phone, or there was a diversion. There's always an event. There's always something that is going on that we can't control. We can't control that email that comes into our inbox. We can only control the way we choose to respond to it and ensure that we're responding in the most effective and principled way we can. So our response, when there is traffic, we can stress, we can rush, or we could just accept it. That's the way it is. When other people drive poorly, we can choose to respond by honking our horn, or we can respond with care and kindness and wondering if that person is maybe in a rush to get somewhere really important to them. When we're bored, we can choose other options rather than just picking up our phone and using our phone. Because all of these responses are what dictate the outcomes. It's those choices that we make in the moment that are most important. And when we get people to really focus on the things they can control, not the things they can't, that's when the positive outcomes come. So, quick case study for you. I notice I'm running out of time. Quick case study for you. I used this many times with organisations that we work with. It's very important to me that we focus on the strategic leadership with our organisations. But I have seen an impact. It's obviously a new framework, but I've been working with it with an organisation for the last year. And we've seen a decrease of 20% in claims year on year. We've seen a 33% improvement in engagement score and feelings of well-being and fulfilment from work. That's pretty cool, right? Pretty cool. So, I just wonder whilst you're all sat there, what's that Einstein saying about doing the same thing and expecting different results? Insanity, wasn't it? I'm here to tell you that that is insanity, okay? We need to look at new ways to support and implement the good work that I'm sure you're all doing already. And that's why I want you to get this framework tattooed on your chests and all over your offices and everywhere, because you will start to influence behaviour. This is backed by neuroscience. It's very similar to the cognitive behavioural model, and it will inspire behavioural change. Setting values, explaining what is in and out of our control, and making sure we enable outcomes will help us make a dent in those statistics together. Thank you very much. My name is Pete Rushmer, and please do follow me on LinkedIn. I hope you found that useful. I have a copy of my book, which is available for everybody. You don't need to pay for it. I just ask you to pop on my website and sign up. I'll arrange to get you a copy posted over. That's it from me, Beverly.